stickiness of them.
And have you found there are certain words or approaches that are more helpful than others that seem to get a good response?
I think it's more for me because I know them. It was more about initiating conversations about their business, which perhaps I don't normally do because they're in my social circle,
Okay.
and then sort of getting a little bit deeper into what issues do you find with that,
Mm,
so that they start to come up with basically opening the door to then me being able to say, "Well, do you know what? Why don't you come and meet some of the people I know because
yes.
I think they could really help you."
I love that. Yeah, because we have talked about this on those calls. It's much more compelling to invite people who can help my business than it is to say come to a meeting. And I think that basic premise is has been super helpful for a lot of people. Anybody else? While you're all thinking about what your experience was and how it's changed everything for you, I'm going to go back one slide only because I'm just now remembering to record and I want to be sure that the agenda is on the recording. So this is what we'll be covering today in case you're just joining us or in case you started this recording in the middle of a sentence and you're wondering what's going on. So there, we are talking about inviting. Anybody else have a tactic or an experience with inviting people? Okay, then let's go back to the perpetual search for drivers. Is anyone having good luck? Carol was talking about inviting works well on LinkedIn. Is anyone using LinkedIn to find drivers? Are there places you're going, conversations you're having that are helping you discover who those strategic people are in your forming chapters? Well, keep looking because that's really important. Remember, we talked about chambers of commerce. You also can be looking at LinkedIn, visiting chapters and asking for referrals, but having those coffee sessions and asking them specific questions. And if you want to review the coffee sessions, go back to session one. Those individual conversations or having conversations with a couple of people, they'll help you determine who the drivers are. And are you making some connections for those potential members? You found someone who's committed and you're saying, oh, you know who you should meet. Let me make a connection. How is that going for you? Anybody have any experiences or stories to share in that direction? Are you having secret meetings? Maybe you are.
So it kind of answers the previous question. I was waiting for somebody else to jump in. But one of the things that I have always, I'm going to use the phrase suffered from, is I'm actually quite shy. So I really dislike social networking where you just sort of stand around with a coffee or a gin and tonic in your hand and hope someone's going to be nice and talk to you, which is why I like BNI so much because of the structure. It
Yeah.
gives me a hook to hang my coat on, as it were. So answering your previous question rather than this one, I I've started pushing myself more out of my comfort zone, and I'm booking myself onto some of those social networkings that I absolutely hate. The jury's out on that one, but I'll let you know.
But isn't it great when things we're trying to do for business also help us develop personally?
Well, let's
Because
hope.
you're growing. Yeah, that's so good. You're being brave. That's you can go to bed tonight knowing that you have accomplished something. Good job. Yes. Yeah. Well, remember that those connections, as we're going through those connections, will be helpful for the people coming into the group because it's a way to introduce the value of BNI. We're showing them how to be strategic in networking because I'm sure, Carol, as you're going to these networking events, or if you're seeing online, people are just throwing names, but that's not networking. And we can help people around the world learn how to do that better for their businesses. Has anyone had their first interest meeting, or they've had a coffee session, or maybe some other kind of meeting that we've talked about, and you're saying, yep, I did this, it worked, or I'd like to try this again. Anybody have any tips? How have those meetings gone? The reason we do the training the way we do with 4 consecutive weeks is you get to practice in between and then you get to debrief with one another. So, has anybody done some meetings for the first time and you're very proud, or you fell down and you'd like some encouragement? Either way.
Perhaps I could like to
Yeah,
share
Florence.
something.
Yes, please, Florence.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Um, just to share, yesterday I was actually asked to go and meet somebody. This person was actually formerly from a core group that was launched last July. But after it was launched, 1 week after he attended, he stopped coming
Mm,
because there were some family issues that need his immediate attention. So it went on for absent for a year, almost like a year, and I asked to see him, and we had coffee at his place. And when I listened to him, he was like, I'm not ready to go back. So I said, what are you going to do with your membership? It's too much of a commitment. If I go, I have to be up in the morning, 6 o'clock, I have to be up and be out of the house by 7. And I marveled, you are willing to do that every week. I said, look, Ellen, I said that if this is where you get your bread and butter, you get the money, why won't you do that? So after I hear from him, he said, no, I like to work from, I pretty much be at home. So when I said, why don't you consider a hybrid chapter?
mm,
And then after analyzing with him the different excuses he gave and why he's not comfortable, so and I said, when I start to actually talk to him, let him talk rather, let him speak. And I said to him, offer some options. And he suddenly said, hey, Florence, I actually had a friend who is actually looking for a network platform that he could be part of it. Would you mind if I connect you with him and you could speak to him?
mm,
So I said, why not?
mm.
And I said, about yourself? He said, yeah, I think it'd be a good idea that you try and put me to another chapter where another core group which is a hybrid chapter where I can manage it better. I'm more comfortable managing it that manner.
Yes.
So
Yes.
by doing that, it opens up, I'm able to pull two-person instead of just saving one. So I'm
Yes.
not sure whether this is of a relevance to share with everybody here. But I
Yes.
thought that I think listening to people is very important. Don't push our way that we think this is the right way for them, but
Mhm.
rather hear what where their pains are, what are they comfortable with,
Yeah.
and go around it to offer suggestions that could resonate with them better, that they are more willing and more comfortable to come forward and say, hey, I've got a couple of other people who are keen and can I refer them back to you?
Yes, so
Yeah,
good.
so
Yes, it's very relevant, Florence, because these coffee sessions, these individual conversations, listening and asking questions, not only did you save someone who was going to walk away, but he made a connection because your conversation resonated with him. And so I think when we go back to the our first session, we talked about commander's intent. The military commander will say, "This is the goal of our operation." Get there this way, get there this way, get there. And you have to shift and have the conversations and change the strategy as you go. It's exactly what we're talking about. So very, very relevant. Thank you for sharing that, Florence. I'm sure that you
thanks, Daryl.
encouraged, yeah, somebody else on here. Okay, well, I'm seeing that we have a few more people, so I'll just remind you once again, if you want translations, this is how you do it. Go to the more, choose captions and translations, choose your language, and then be sure to save it so that you can hear and see exactly what you need. All right, so let's do a little review as we see what I did there, as we launch into the rest of our training today. This is how we are structuring our training program. You may recall that there was a more detailed version of this slide when we started. I wanted us to focus on what we will be talking about for the training. And so we started with our community phase, learning how to prospect and initiate the pipeline. Then we just talked last week about the commitment phase. Remember, this journey is taking people from curious to committed. Are you interested in BNI, and how interested are you? And today we are going to be talking about the core group phase. So this is a momentous occasion. We have popped the question, are you ready to be in a group and not date other people, but just be in a group with us? And then we will move on next week to those last two sections of chartering and the first year chapter success plan. But this phase is important because we mark the change from a minimal commitment to actually taking payments. And if you recall from last week, we talked about this particular slide. We're using tools like a coffee session, strategy sessions, we'll talk about those more today, and coaching conversations and the commitment forms to get to 15 commitment forms. When we get to those 15 commitment forms, we have an expectations meeting. This is what we talked about last week, the pre-core phase when we're getting people to move toward commitments. This week, we are starting to talk about the next phase, which is the core group phase. And these are now people entered in, well, the group is entered into BNI Connect. And instead of commitment forms saying, yes, I promise, we are actually taking applications and payments because now we have a bucket in BNI Connect for them to put their payments and applications in. They are not full members yet. They don't have access to BNI Connect and BNI Academy, but now the group is in BNI Connect so that that dot will show up on your regional website, and people who are looking online to see where they might find something for BNI, they'll be able to say, oh, they're forming a group in this particular area. So we are getting 15 commitment forms and then become a core group. If you recall, when we only do it at 10 or even smaller, now we have so much more work to do to get to the 25 paid. If we can get 15 or more commitment forms, it's far easier to say to everybody, if you all sponsor one person, we're at 30, let's go. And it's not very intimidating to be able to sponsor one person. So this week's phases look like this. A core group phase, we start with the expectations meeting, and our goal here is 25 paid and approved applications. What's different in this one is we're not using commitment forms anymore. Instead, we're replacing that commitment with applications and payments. So we're still using coffee sessions. We are still having strategy meetings. Of course, we're still having those coaching conversations. In fact, we're going to be very, very clear in setting expectations as we talk today about the interview process that we're having, because it's an opportunity every conversation to be sure you and I understand the same things. So this is the picture of what we're talking about for today. We're starting with the expectations meeting, which we talked about last week, and our goal now is to get to 25 or more paid and approved applications. And as I said before, I'm preparing this presentation for the US conference. So we've been looking at a lot of data since we've been doing this process in the US. And our average chapter launch size has increased just in 2026, in the last 3 months. Our average launch chapter size is more than 26 members per launch. And when we looked at the last half of 2025, we're seeing that those groups at 90 days have increased about 2 members per chapter. So we're setting these chapters up for some success because we're having the conversations and we're making sure everybody has expectations that are clear, and we're moving to the next phase. So I want to encourage you, we can launch less in BNI Connect, but launching with more people who all understand the process is going to keep the chapters growing. So we'll have chapters of 30, 35, 40 members at the 1 year mark. So let's talk a moment about setting expectations. This may be helpful for you, as I hope it is, not only in launching chapters, but in your own business, in conversations with your families and in your communities. So many misunderstandings and so much drama, even in chapters. not your chapters, other chapters we know, is because people don't have clear expectations. And so because I used to be a teacher, I love things that are sticky in my brain. And so I like things that begin with the same letter. So these setting expectations, this might be a helpful context. I want to go through some points here that are helpful, and then we'll put you into breakout rooms so that you can practice a couple of launch scenarios and you can use these pointers. The first thing that's important for setting expectations is the context, helping people understand why we're doing this. No one responds well, especially entrepreneurs, to just saying, you have to do this because I said so. Because these are not 2-year-olds, these are not 3-year-olds, these are business owners, and we need to tell them why this is important, why this is important to our process. So we need to give them context. We also need to give clarity. We have to have the same conversations with every person, even if it feels like an awkward conversation to have. We expect you to bring visitors to all of our meetings. And if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. If someone doesn't bring the visitors then 2 or 3 weeks in a row, we know the conversation to have because we have said it was very, very clear. If this, then this. We want to be clear with everyone, and that plays into the consistency. The same message to every person in every conversation. That is going to keep us from having misunderstandings later. You'll see in the meeting agendas that we announce things on a call like this or in a room with a bunch of people. So I can say, I told everyone the same thing. But what I say and what you hear are not always the same thing. So we want to follow up with coffee sessions, follow up with an email, maybe with a phone call, and make sure that every single person, no exceptions, every person has the same information and they understand it. If you've been on a flight and you sit in the exit row and the flight attendant comes and says, I need to hear from all of you that you are willing to help in an emergency. I need a verbal yes. And I'll say, Carol. Carol says yes. Jay says yes. This is what I'm talking about. We have expectations. And that's why we're checking in with them. I announced it. And now, did you understand? Did you understand? We're checking in. And finally, we want to celebrate individual milestones. If we start a conversation and we don't say anything great and recognize any benchmarks until 3 months when we charter, it's not very encouraging. We want to say, we got to 15, congratulations, expectations meeting. You sponsored someone, congratulations. We want to celebrate the small wins and the big wins. So when we're setting expectations, this isn't a formula or a checklist, but I hope that they're helpful points for you to have the conversation to remember that this work at the beginning of the process will help you so much later in the process because there won't be drama, there won't be misunderstandings. And if there are, you can say, I promise it's you, it's not me. And you can do your very best to move forward with the group. So hopefully this will help you in your business, help you in the launching. Specifically, I want you to try to apply these principles in the breakout rooms that we're going to do. You can choose your breakout rooms by language, as you will see as soon as we open them. And you can choose one or the other. If you have time, you can do both. But I want you to really jump into the role play and pretend you're having this. Hi, I'm so glad that you brought so-and-so to the meeting. Let's talk about the expectation, blah, blah, blah. So you can talk about one, explain the expectation of bringing visitors. So maybe this is a coffee session and someone says, yes, I'm interested. All right, I just want to be clear. And what will be the words you'll use to explain that expectation? Or you can choose to have the conversation to tell someone they're filling out an application and submit payment to secure their spot. Sometimes we see, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, somebody says, I'm in, I am in, and they fill out the application and they don't pay, and they don't pay. And so setting up the expectations, we'll talk about this in the interview, very important to say, If you don't have payment within 48 hours, then we are going to have to open the classification for someone else, and then we'll call them back. So we want to be sure that that's very clear to people so we don't have hangers on, people just waiting for weeks and not paying, but now no one else in the group is looking for a plumber because we already have our plumber and he's part of the conversation. So having these expectation conversations up front is going to be very helpful. Choose one scenario. We'll give you 10 minutes. Are there questions? Great. Then, Catherine, if you can open up the breakout rooms.
I'm going to open them now. Please just select by language. There are multiple rooms, sometimes in the same language. So if you see that no one joins you, then you can bounce into another room. So give it a moment with where you land.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, good to see everybody. I hope you had good conversations. I love when you wait till the very, very last minute because no one wants to stop talking. You're learning so much. Does anyone want to share something that was helpful in the conversation that they had? And as I think Catherine mentioned before in the chat, if it's easier for you to type it in the chat, we can read those out. But if you'd like to share something that you learned, someone who had great words for you, that would be great.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I did the second scenario, and the person that I was signing up said, is there an easier way for me to pay? Is there a payment plan? And I realized I don't know the answer to that question for launch.
So good. Yeah, so good. And excuse me, I'm not sure how it is in each individual country, but the PayPal is good in the US. I don't know, is PayPal everywhere? Can they do
It is
that in
in
the
the
UK as
UK.
well,
Not
at least?
everywhere, but it is our UK option. So, Carol, just to answer you quickly for your country, the same PayPal that's available for existing chapter applications is exactly the same process for core group members.
Real, thank you.
Yeah, and that's a good question because we are going from commitment forms to applications. Everything that applies to an existing chapter also applies to a core group. Once they become a core group in BNI Connect, BNI Connect sees that as being very similar. So payment options are the same, expectations are the same. We'll start talking about the code of ethics and having those clear expectations, just like a membership committee would for an existing chapter. Great question.
Jenny, it's
Yes.
Trevor.
Yes.
Maybe just to ask Carol, when they talk about payment options, just for clarity, whether we're talking about the platform to use for payment or whether the question was about people having terms to pay off the fee. I think.
Yeah, the question was about people having terms, whether they had to pay the whole amount up front or if they could spread the payments.
Yeah, and BNI only has a full payment. So if they find a different way, like with PayPal, they can do they have installments with PayPal. If
Okay.
your country uses PayPal, it's very important that you are making sure people understand if they don't pay all the installments to PayPal in a certain time, the interest is very high. So a lot of times the terms are 6 months. And if they don't pay it in all the installments, the interest is very high. So again, with expectations, it's fine if that works. They just need to understand that it will cost them more if they take longer.
Jenny, just to ask, is it out there in other parts of the world where there is an option for members to choose making payment by installment? I thought it was a one-time with no
Yeah.
installments allowed at all.
It is, yeah. BNI only accepts full payments.
Yeah.
When you're working with something like PayPal, PayPal pays BNI completely, and then I can pay PayPal back every month for 6 months. But BNI
Okay.
only takes full payments for right now, as far as I know, everywhere in the world.
That's correct.
Thank
And
you.
the trial they did on looking at split payments was very, very mixed results. So they didn't go ahead with that at the time. So at the moment, it is exactly as Jenny said, it would be a loan from a company outside that then pays the money to BNI in full, and their responsibility is back to that company to settle the loan.
Yeah, I'm seeing here in the chat, Carol suggested we ask the applicant who they'd like to bring the following week when setting expectations. Yeah, that's great. So good. Why not ask for two instead of just one? So good. All right. Well, hopefully that was a helpful exercise. I want to go into a little bit of the process now of the core group. So what we have here is this is for a core group in the US. You may want something similar, but we have a form with our admin team. So just to remind you, this is a process to make sure that someone is doing something in BNI Connect. This is the first thing that you're really going to do to make it move toward a full-fledged chapter, because we're going to go into BNI Connect. So if this is your responsibility, if you are on the admin team, or if you're helping your admin team, or just need to know that this is what's happening. If you're going into BNI Connect, you'll go to Operations, Manage Core Groups, and you'll create a core group, because we expect that this happens around the world all the time. So we have a special button just for this process. So if this is you, this is how it happens. If it's not you, then it's your administrative team, somebody in the office maybe who's doing this for you. But this is a moment, kind of like charter is a moment. It's an event. So the phases lead to these moments. And so then you want, this is the information that you'll need when you create a core group. It's not a tattoo forever, but you do want to have a lot of this information. You want to know when they'll be meeting, what is the group called, where will they be meeting, what will be the format, because all of this will be very easy then when you create your chapter, when they charter. All of this information will go into BNI Connect. So these are conversations you'll want to be having with the group as you lead up to the expectations meeting to say, remember you said you would call yourselves the superstars or whatever, and Tuesday mornings, right? And here's the location. We want to have all this information when they become a core group. Now, if you have an admin team, or if your executive director does this, or if the national director does this, then don't touch it. Keep your hands off. But you can know that it is happening. And so if you are not doing it, you're working with the people. You don't need to do this part. But if this is your role, that's how it happens. I just think it's important for us to know that it is a moment. And now it's a core group and things change. So as we're moving forward, we have various tools. We've had different meetings. I want to remind you that it's not a linear process all the time. There are moments we have to go back. There are moments we have to take a turn. And so even when we get to core group status, we still are going to be having coffee sessions, maybe interest meetings, and maybe, well, we've already had the expectation meeting. But are you clear, and do you have any questions? I wanted to pause about which tools you need at which time. So maybe you can put in the chat, this might be an easier way to do it. What is an appropriate time to use a coffee session? Or if somebody wants to unmute to tell us, what is a coffee session and what's its purpose? Just as a little review. It's equivalent to a first date. Yes, thank you, Carol, for coming with me on the relationship analogy. Yes, it is equivalent to a first date. So what are some important pieces of information we can have at a coffee session? Why are these particularly useful?
Well, during a coffee session, and this is a time when people comes in and you listen to them, hear what they are looking for, what are they trying to find from using this platform, what can they get out from this platform.
Yes.
You also hear what their pains are, what their expectations are going to be, and also you can gauge by them that kind of interest, how strong it is, or are they just coming here to hunt?
Yes.
Because at this time you're able to differentiate and you're able to see the hunters and the other ones who are the genuine interested party who really want to try and use this platform to try something new, because after all, they are new in this and they really have nothing to lose if they are willing to try.
Yeah, so good. On a call like this where we have 40 people, I can give you a lot of information, but at the end of this call, I won't have any idea what someone else is thinking about because it was 40 to 1. But in a
Yep.
coffee session, you get all that information. That's so good.
Yep.
Smaller group. Yes, that's exactly right, Darren. It's one or two other people. Yes. Can you tell if they're a driver? Yes. Yeah, and it's a good one-to-one. Yeah, so these coffee sessions are conversations. Look how well you've trained them, Catherine. They remembered everything. Very sticky. Good job. Good job. All right, and then an interest meeting is a little bit different. This is a review of what we talked about in, I think, session 1. What's the difference between a coffee session and an interest meeting? When do we use an interest meeting? And now I'm learning it takes a second for everybody to type. Okay, well, maybe that's a question that people have. Yeah. An interest meeting is going to be a periodic meeting that you have to gather more people. Coffee sessions are conversations with one or two people. When an interest meeting, yeah, you have enough potentials to have a formal meeting. You can introduce them to each other. You talk about BNI. You came to learn about BNI. Let me see how interested you are. We have an interest meeting. So you may have an interest meeting every 2 or 3 weeks in this process. You shouldn't need to have a lot of interest meetings because you'll have a meeting and then between meetings, you'll have coffee, 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 or tea, whatever your beverage of choice is. And then you'll have all you're talking about is who will you invite? So if I have coffee sessions with 4 people in 2 weeks, and each of those people now bring 3 people, I have enough to talk about. And then from there, I'll say, now you go get 2 or 3 people, and in 2 weeks, we'll do this again. The interest meetings can't happen 6 or 7 or 8 times with the same people because they're boring. It's the most basic information for people who don't know. That's why we want new people to come to an interest meeting. And we find those new people at coffee sessions. Coffee and interest happen many times. An expectation meeting happens once for each group. So that's the difference here. The expectations meeting happens in the stage we're talking about. They become a core group. So lots of coffee, lots of interest, one expectations meeting. Now we're a core group in BNI Connect. Is that clear? Okay, great. And I also know that some of you are jumping into session 3 and you weren't on sessions 1 and 2, so this is all brand new information. I don't want to spend too much more time. You can go back and watch those recordings. If you need them, please let me know. Stephen, question?
Hi, Jenny. Thank you. I have a question regarding the interest meetings. Uh, I'm learning here like the new model, but as I used to do it in the past, you would have people recurring to come to the interest meeting or to info sessions. So now when you have somebody that fills out the commitment form, let's say you had them at a coffee session or at a first interest meeting, and then you'll have a second or a third. Do they come back to this interest meeting or they don't have to come?
Well, they don't have to come, but the idea is for them to come with somebody new.
Okay.
So I'll go to a movie I love. And then if I talk to you about it, and you say, I would love to see it. I'll say, I'll go with you. Come on, let's go see it again. And I'll see the movie again. But I'm not going to do that 10 times. So I want us to be a group so we don't have to have this meeting anymore. But you want the people, the sponsors, to bring people with them. And if I'm inviting you and I say, let's go to this meeting, well, I've already heard this, I'm not going. That doesn't work. It's not building relationships. So in a perfect world, where nobody lives, but in our minds, in a perfect world, I'll bring people to 3 meetings maybe different people every time, and now we're a core group, or now we're a full-fledged chapter.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, good clarification. Thank you. All right, are we ready to shift gears? Let's talk about this process and how we're moving people into the core group from this point to actually becoming a full chapter. So we're talking about applications. The application process for a core group is the same as for an existing chapter, except you as the launch director are the membership committee. So this is why you're having the interviews and the conversations. But this is when we begin to tell them what our code of ethics are and what our policies are, because they are becoming part of a BNI chapter. The importance of this is that now we are taking money and a full application. So if things go badly, we have to return payment. People have a higher level of commitment now because they've put in an application and they've submitted payments. So we want this to happen. This is why we stretch and make sure that we have enough people to become a core group, because from here, people get very excited. And if we stretch this for another 6 months and it doesn't happen, it's very bad for BNI. It's bad for the businesses. We want these people to have a chapter, but we want them to do it in a way that's healthy for them. So we have an interview, just like your membership committees have interviews for their existing chapters. A couple of things that we are discovering as we're doing these interviews. You can do this interview, first of all, before they become a core group. You can have these interviews and these conversations when they fill out their commitment forms. So when you become a core group, you say, great, we already had our interview. Now we're a core group. You've paid. I'm going to approve you. Done. And it makes this part very fast. So if they're new, it depends on when they come to the process. If they were in the very, very beginning and filled out a commitment form, have an interview, have the conversation, and then they keep bringing people, you become a core group, they can be approved immediately, and you can move on to the new people. After they become a core group, I'm having coffee conversations, and someone says, this sounds great. I love this. You don't have to send them to a meeting. If they're ready, you can say, here's the link, fill out an application, let's have the interview, and they can be approved as soon as that's happening too. This commander's intent means I don't have to go backwards to a meeting. If they're ready to make a commitment, I can take their payment, have the interview, approve them, and now we're up to 17. Now we're up to 18. So we want to use all the tools in the toolbox to get to 25 paid applications. But when we're having these interviews, a good question that we've discovered recently is to ask the person you're interviewing, who are 2 or 3 other people you know that I can reach out to? And we'll see if they want to come to our next meeting. We'll see if they're interested in making some connections, because I'm excited. I'm giving you my money. I'm giving you my application. So I'm going to be thinking of other people, and I'll say, you need to call my friend Adriana. She will love this. Here's her phone number. You need to call my friend John. He is going to love this. And then I don't have to do it as the applicant. You're going to help me make those connections, and we will get to our 25 very, very quickly. The reason we do these applications and some of the things that we want to be sure we're covering are because it's another way to set the expectations. So as we're going through an interview, as if you were on the membership committee, which parts of an interview for brand new people who don't know about BNI do you think are important for us to emphasize as we're having these conversations? What do we want to be sure we're covering in all of these? Several things, not just one thing, but what things do we need to be sure we're telling new members? Attendance, so important. This is every week. This is 90 minutes every week. This is important. This is the time to have that conversation for sure. Yes, yes. Everybody sees that. Love that. What else?
Meeting fees.
Say that again, Florence.
Meeting fees, especially.
Yeah.
This apply for those who does physical meeting, not Zoom meeting, because we have seen people that in the process of taking them, we explained, went through, but after they became a member, somehow or other they will say, oh, I was not told that
Yeah.
Other than membership fees, we still need to pay for meeting fees.
Yeah.
Why can't we have it free?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes online chapters have a budget as well because they want to have in-person events or they want to do recognition. And Dr. Fay, great point in the chat here, commitment to keep bringing visitors. I have worked with many, many chapters, and probably so have you. When you look at the chapter traffic lights, visitors, gray, gray, red, gray. Always people say, we want to grow, we need more visitors. Launching chapters are the best because that's how they grew. And we want to keep them bringing people. We want to set that expectation. Yes, for sure. Yeah. Bringing visitors. Also, I have found when I was doing interviews, very important that the first question be, are you free on Tuesdays? Because we meet on Tuesday mornings or whatever the thing may be. Do you know when we're meeting? Are you aware of what this, do you know what the commitment is? We want to be emphasizing these things. We know because we work with chapters that exist and they haven't had any experience with BNI, so we need to set them up for success. We also want to be thinking as we're having the conversations about how to choose the one right person if several people apply for that role. If I have 3 electricians, I need to know how will I decide who is the best electrician for this group. How strong is their network is a great place to start. That's why we're asking in the interview, who are some other people that you could reach out to or I could reach out to? Yes, sponsoring other people. Because remember, we're building the house, then we live in it. So we're growing, 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 inviting. Yeah. A network of contacts. Yes. Time to train. I think that's so important, Christina. Yes. Because at the beginning, we have a whole year program, but the first few weeks, we are asking them maybe to do some things in BNI Academy, asking them to learn about BNI. Is this a good season for your business that you can commit extra time for this? That's a really important question. Willing to learn. Yes. I loved interviewing people for the chapter that I was launching when they would say, I love lifelong learning. I love getting more information about how to do my business better. Those are great people for your chapter. And I can tell you how this is similar and different from membership committees. It's the same. It's the same interview we use in membership committees. It's just that until you get a membership committee and charter this chapter, you are the membership committee. So you are doing lots of conversations, which is why it's helpful to have the conversations as early as possible as you're getting the commitment forms and the applications, so you don't have to do 25 of them all at once. You don't want to be the reason we have to slow down. All right, so strategy meetings are another kind of meeting that we're having. You can add one more tool into your toolbox. A strategy meeting is something that you want to be having for 20 or 30 minutes every week with your committed members. So these are the people who from the very beginning, this is probably your realtor, your insurance people, all of the people who are starting the chapter, they need to be meeting on a regular basis for expectations and accountability to say, did you call the photographer? Are you going to invite the photographer? Are they coming next week? Great. How did that work? Who are you calling? Let's have a lunch. Let's get together. These we are just putting out, and I'm going to see if it's easy for me to upload this to the chat. I just discovered a document that my colleague has put together and was talking to us about. If I can find it, I will. Maybe, Catherine, if you have a second, in that chat with you, me, and James, I updated a couple of those documents. You can put those in the chat. They're brand new, hot
Which
off the
ones?
presses.
Oh, just the latest ones in there.
Strategy meeting. Yeah, the strategy meeting and the
Perfect.
worksheet, those two
I will
last
do
ones.
that right now.
Yeah, that's great. So this is something that we're still working this system, right? We're still trying to make this work. So this is a time when you recognize your top performers. You talk about your strategy. Who will you invite? Who will you call? Then the next week you say, did you do what you said you would do? This is how we keep our committed members committed and moving forward. So each person, it's not somebody help. It's I want you to call. I want you to call. Did you call? Very, very specific, holding people accountable. Because accountability is one of our core values, of course. How do you prepare for success? Yes, those are good. Yes, those are perfect. Thank you so much for putting that in there, Catherine. These are brand new. You are the first people to see these documents. Very exciting. Thursday, April 2nd. It's the day all happened. All right. So a strategy meeting is something happening regularly to keep moving forward. When you are close to launch, and we're so close, you want to have a vision meeting. To my knowledge, we are still working on putting together a final version of this vision meeting. But these are the pieces that you want to be sure. When you are close, you've got your applications and you're getting close. Maybe you have 20 applications and you're saying, we're so close, let's have a meeting where everybody can remember we said we would be done at this date. Will we be able to do it? Who are you going to call? We have this kind of final push. These are the people who still need to pay. I will call these people. Let's talk about the next few weeks after we charter. We have a training plan. Is this on your calendar? This is kind of getting ready, packing the car to go on a really long trip. Do we have everything we need? It's the checklist. Because we are moving from this stage, remember the next stage is another moment, it's the charter. We started with a moment to become a core group. We're moving toward chartering, which is another moment. That's the wedding. And so at this point of the vision meeting, we're getting to the final countdown, humming it in our heads, the final countdown. Here are the things we want to be sure we're talking about. Who do we still need in this group? We still need someone who cuts hair. We still need a massage therapist. We still need a roofer, whatever it is. Who are you going to call? Who needs to pay? This is the final checklist, hence the final countdown, because our goal is to get to 25 or more paid applications. I would love to tell you, once you get to 20, you'll get 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, no problem. 1 week, you're done. But I can't tell you that. I will tell you that along the way in this stage, you are likely to hit some speed bumps. And that's okay. We have a plan for that. We want you to recognize what some of those are and when some of them are likely to happen. We often see it right getting to the 15 applications. I had 15 commitment forms, but maybe a couple of them have cold feet. So sometimes just that initial hump is hard. And also when you get to 20 applications and you're so close, you can see the finish line, so close. Sometimes we stall a little bit. This is why it's important at the beginning to set expectations for visitors, new people, every time you get together. New people every week. Whether you're having a meeting or not having a meeting, do we have a new application, 3 applications every week? When we don't have visitors and we don't have applications for even 2 weeks, we have stalled. And then we need to have some other kinds of plans. We need to have a visitor who comes in from maybe your executive director comes and gives a talk. Maybe a launch director can zoom in from another region, someone who can help you. But we have to look for the signs and maybe have a special meeting or have some conversations, injecting something new into the group, because we can't let this flat part last for more than 2 or 3 weeks or we'll start to go down. And the only way we coast is downhill. And we don't want to go backwards and we don't want to stretch the timeline. So we need to keep, yes, you can encourage power teams. So it's a great idea. Who in your group do you know? Sometimes the stall will be harder than others. And sometimes how will you know? How will you know if they really love you? How will you know if it's time to move forward or if it's time to pull the plug and say, this isn't going to work? If you're stuck for weeks and weeks and weeks, if people aren't showing up, if there are no visitors, if you lose a driver, there are certain things that are going to stall and it will make you question. So we also have an idea for you. It's called a shareholders meeting, or did we call these stakeholder meetings? I can't remember. Stakeholders, I'll have to change this. You know what? We have the technology. I can do it right now. These are stakeholder meetings. We don't want people to be confused. It's magic. Now it's right. Stakeholder meetings. This is a time when you can say, we need to pause, and this is not for visitors. This is only for those who are committed. They have applied. They have paid. They are committed to this process. You gather them for a separate meeting and you say, all right, we have had Catherine Segers come in to speak to us, and everybody will go, oh, not Catherine. Wow, this must be important. And then she gets on the Zoom call and she says, come on, everybody, we can do this. Here's something you haven't thought about. Here's a strategy. And they say, you're right. We can do it. We can do it. And then you get to 25 the next day. That's how that should go. You all just need to have Catherine come to your meetings. I'll come to your meetings. I'll wake up at the middle of the night and I'll Zoom in your meetings in your country. But this is when you're going to go over something called the rules of the game that we did at the expectations meeting. We're clarifying expectations. We're reminding them of the benchmarks. We said, here it is, April 2nd. We said we would launch by April 15th. We have 2 weeks to do this. Can we do this? What do we need to do? And remind people of where we said we would go, what they said they would do. So we have this stakeholders meeting when groups get stuck. It's a good time to do certain activities. You can list 40 names in 4 minutes. You can talk about contact spheres. It just may need some reminders because they'll say, I've invited everybody I know. Then let's help them invite people they don't know. How can we help them move forward? And this is a good time for us to remember, we're helping them build their chapter. So who do you need? How can I help and support you? But we can't want it more than they do. They have to really want the group to move forward. So we have another document that will be very helpful for you. This is called and we'll take off this bit. Look at that. Look how I can alter as I go. This is live theater, ladies and gentlemen, live theater. This is in BNI Academy. So you will be able to find this document, download this document. It looks very complicated. It is very helpful because you can see if this is happening, I can make this choice or this choice. If I make this choice, then I can go this direction or this direction. And it will help you because sometimes we get emotional. We say, this has to happen. It has to happen. And sometimes it's just not going to happen. I hope that's not the case. I hope 100% of your chapters will launch. But sometimes this can give us ideas or tell us when we need to just say, this isn't working. So this core group phase is very important because it's going to happen or not happen. And these expectation conversations are very, very important. Are there questions about any of the things? I feel like I just ran a marathon so fast on this part, rushing through it, but I want to pause and see if there are questions, if there are comments based on your experience before we get to your homework for next week. Or anything you would add, Catherine?
I just want to say that I am live launching in this new process as well as just training it in the UK for the first time. And we're just loving the process. Those of us that started a little behind our delegates that have just trained in March, we're seeing excellent results. We're seeing some really, really strong cadence. And the hardest thing for us to wrap our heads around, and we've had some questions in the chat that would assume this is a mindset shift for you as well, is we're not trying to fall into a trap of weekly cadence where we're just bringing together visitors and members and putting them all into one meeting and then slowing down the progress by doing nothing in between. That's been a revelation for us in terms of process change in the UK. So it's this on demand. Think about all your prospecting is on demand, coffee meetings on demand, interest meetings when you've got lots of them. And then they're bringing them into the committed funnel, and you're using strategy meetings to see your actual committed people separately. And then we can move forward to that apply and pay and vision meetings and all sorts. So I know there's lots of meeting titles coming at you. When you actually understand how easy it is to segment them into the parts of the process, it just works really well. And that allows us time to really shape and mold and educate our members rather than trying to always just speak out our visitors in a shared space. And it really works. So that's just a hallelujah from the field that I'm really enjoying building a brand new group using this process. And for to give you some time there to think of anything you want to ask, of course.
Yeah. And I like that term, on demand. Yeah. If the situation calls for it, let's have this meeting. Yeah, I love that. Any other questions? Everybody says no. Let me get on with my day. You've been clear. All right. Well, this is the favorite part for every teacher. It's time to give you your homework. This one's a pretty easy one. In the follow-up email that I will send you today or tomorrow, I will make sure that I am giving you a link to the membership committee interview, as well as the go or no-go document that I just showed you. And your homework is to look at both of those. The time to understand it is before you need it, both of them. And because we hope you are starting conversations with people and having these groups now, as you're practicing, the membership committee interview will be particularly helpful because you can be having those conversations as soon as you get your first commitment form. That way everybody has clear expectations and they get to hear more about the process. We can get them excited so they'll go find more people. So that interview is important. It doesn't need to take more than about 20 minutes. It can be very conversational, walking through all of the questions that are there. Same with the go, no go document, because if you already have it in your head, then when the situation presents itself, you'll go, oh yes, I remember reading this, and you'll know to where to go back. So I will send you those two documents, the links in BNI Academy, and then your homework will be to look over those, and we'll talk about those when we start our final session for next week. All right. That is it. You get 15 minutes back in your day to go and change the way the world does business. Maybe you can launch a chapter. Tell us about it next week when you get here. All right. Thank you, Catherine, as always, and thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine, and thanks, Jenny, for all of those earworms.
You're welcome. Be singing the final countdown.
No, it was the last one that got me. Brilliant. Thank you very
little
much.
Whitney Houston. All right. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.